Hi there folks, this is Adam with 8 Badge Gaming coming to you today with a new deck for a new week. And as you can see on your screen, the deck that we are teching today is the Yveltal Break deck. Now this is a deck that actually just placed as high as 8th in the Columbus International just at the beginning of July, and it seems to be a pretty strong, if unique, archetype that could be played overall. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into the deck itself. Now let's start off with the Pokemon. Now the first Pokemon that we have on screen here today is going to be the Oranguru from Sun and Moon base set, and it's the Instruct Oranguru. Now this is being used as the main draw supporter Pokemon in the deck. It's 120 HP basic, and its ability of Instruct says once during your turn before you attack, you may draw cards until you have 3 cards in hand. Now this is being run in this deck primarily over, say, Octillery, because it's a single slot of dedication rather than a minimum of 2 for the Octillery Remoraid combination, and it's a little less susceptible to being prized. Mainly because if it's prized, you don't have it, whereas with Remoraid or Octillery, if one of the two is prized, you're locked into not being able to use the other. Now, it also can be a strong attacker itself, with the Psychic Attack, which is a triple energy requirement of any type, and it hits for 60 plus 20 for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So, against something that might have 3 energy on it, we're hitting for 120 with this basic Pokemon. So this could be a one-prize attacker, but generally we are going to be using it for its Instructability. Now, next up, we are running a 2 of Hoopa, which is 120 HP basic, and we're primarily using this for its Scoundrel Guard ability, which says that you prevent all effects of attacks, including damage, done to this Pokemon by your opponent's GXs and EXs. It hits only for 80 damage, and generally requires at least 3 energy, or a darkness plus a double colorless, but this card can just outright shut down some archetypes. Decks like Zoroark builds, using either, say, Lycanroc or Wimpod, are going to have a hard time dealing with this card. Now, some lists do run things like, say, the Evolutions Mewtwo, which we actually do have a couple of copies of in this deck, but it's going to be pretty hard for them to KO this Pokemon. We get it into the active, and we're just going to start to be able to chip away without them being able to do much there overall. Now, moving right along, we're getting into the mainstay of the deck, which is going to be the Yveltals and the Yveltal Break. Now, we're running a 3-1 split on the Yveltals. We're running 3 of the Oblivion Wing one, which is 130 HP basic. With a single Darkness Energy, it can use Oblivion Wing, which hits for 30, and allows you to attach Darkness Energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. For double Darken 1, you can Darkness Blade for 100 damage, and you flip a coin. If tails, this Pokemon can't attack during your next turn. Now, this is a great card if you're going into a heavy fighting meta, because as you can tell, even though it is a dark type Pokemon, the weakness is actually to Electric, which really isn't being played in the meta right now, other than maybe the Tapu Koko promo. But it does have a straight resistance to fighting, which is very rare for most dark type Pokemons. Now, we are using this with the Break because the Break actually evolves right on top of this. We still keep all of the original retreat cost, weakness, resistance, and attacks. It simply replaces the HP on the Pokemon, and it adds an additional attack or ability. Now, we're using this as a 3 of, in addition to the 1 of Strafe Yveltal from Shining Legends. Now, this is 120 HP Yveltal, and it hits for 30 damage for double colorless with Strafe, and you can switch this Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon. Now, you also do have the ability to use this version of Oblivion Wing, which is a fighting and double colorless for 90 damage, and it allows you to attach a dark energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. Just like the Steam Siege Yveltal, the regular Oblivion Wing one, this also has weakness to electric and resistance to fighting. Now, both of these are looking to evolve into our Yveltal Break. Now, unfortunately, we aren't able to show it to you horizontally on this screen due to the way that Pokemon TCGO actually shows it online, but this is a 150 HP evolution. You place it down on any regular Yveltal, and its attack is Baleful Night. Now, this is triple dark for 120 damage, and this attack also does 30 damage to each of your opponent's benched Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So not only is it hitting for 120, it is also placing additional damage on already damaged Pokemon. It also is 150 HP, which dodges one-shots from quite a few Pokemon, where it does have an actual straight resistance to fighting. Any, say, Buzzwole that's trying to Knuckle Impact this, unless it has a stronger Beast Energy on it, won't be able to actually one-shot it. It also isn't being one-shot like things like Riotous Beatings from the Zoroark decks. It's not being one-shot by, say, First Impression or Armor Press from Gallipods. It's not being one-shot from anything short of a GX on a Lycanroc. So it's a fairly strong card overall. But we're using this in combination with a few of our other Pokemon that allow us to spread a bit of damage. Now, those two Pokemon in particular are our Tapu Koko promo, which is 110 HP basic. It hits with Flying Flip for double colorless, and it does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. Now, that's whether it's active or benched. It hits everything. Now, we're never going to be able to use the Electric Ball attack in this particular deck, but it does also have a free retreat, which can be particularly useful. I know this has seen quite a bit of play with, say, Gallisopod decks, as long as Gallipod's been in the format, but it is also useful in this deck primarily for its Flying Flip attack. Moving on, we have one of Latios, which is 110 HP basic, and we're using it for its breakthrough attack, which is double colorless. It hits for 30 plus 30 to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Now, this also being a psychic attacker is great against things like Buzzwole, where this with a choice band on it, for example, will be able to hit for 120 on an active Buzzwole, while putting 30 onto a benched Pokemon on their side as well. Next up, we are running a 2 of Mewtwo. Now, this is again, tech card to deal primarily with anything that's psychic weak and likes to suit up energy on their Pokemon. So we're looking primarily at things like Buzzwole. We're also looking at things like Necrozma, the original variant, not the Ultra Necrozma particularly. And this is 130 HP basic, and we're using it for its psychic attack, which is 20 damage plus 20 damage for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. This also can attack for a double colorless. I think you might be noting a theme here so far, that double colorless is indeed included in this deck because it allows us to use a lot of our Pokemon's attacks for a single energy attachment. Now, moving right along, we are running only a single Tapu Lele in this deck. Now, if you've noticed so far, every single Pokemon in this deck, short of Tapu Lele itself, is a single prize Pokemon. This is a deck that's really trying to drive your opponent to take 6 KOs to your 3 for the most part. Now, Tapu Lele we're using for its Wonder Tag ability, which lets you tutor a supporter out of your deck and put it into your hand when you lay Tapu Lele onto your bench from your hand during your turn. Now, just like most of the other Pokemon in this deck, a single energy attachment of a double colorless can allow it to use Energy Drive, which hits for 20 damage for each energy attached to Tapu Lele and your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, we aren't using the Tapu Cure GX in this deck whatsoever, but we're using Tapu Lele primarily for Wonder Tag and Energy Drive. Now, let's go ahead and move on into our trainers. Now, starting off, we are running a 2 of Enhanced Hammers. As we've noticed, there's quite a few special energies going around through a variety of decks in the format right now, and being able to knock a special energy off your opponent's Pokemon to slow down their attacking is going to be extremely useful. Next up, we are running a 4 of Max Elixir, and that's because we're trying to suit up our Yveltals as quick as possible. Where the Yveltal Break, it does require triple Dark Energy. Instead of having to just manually attach 3 energies with this deck, we are looking to Max Elixir them on as quickly as possible here. Following up that, we have a 1 of Super Rod, as we do occasionally want to be able to shuffle energy from our discard back into our deck, but we're also looking to mainly shuffle Pokemon back into our deck. We're not really looking to use Rescue Stretcher as much here, because we're also going to be able to need to recover energy occasionally. Moving on from that, we are running a straight 4 of Ultra Ball, as is very common for most standard decks. This is going to let us use Ultra Ball and discard 2 other cards from our hand to tutor any Pokemon out of our deck and put it into our hand. Now, where we are having the ability to use the Oblivion Wing from our Steam Siege Yveltal, that's going to be able to attach Darkness energies from our discard to one of our benched Pokemon. Now, this is specifically useful when we're discarding energies to things like the Ultra Ball itself. Moving on from Ultra Ball, we have a 1 of Parallel City. The ability to lock down our opponent's bench or potentially reduce their damage is going to be extremely useful, as we've seen in many decks in Standard. Moving on now, we're getting into our supporters. Now, with this deck, our draw support is limited to Oranguru outside of the supporters themselves, so you'll see that we're pretty high on the actual supporter counts. We are running a 3 of Cynthia, which lets you shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 6 cards. A 4 of N, which lets each player shuffle their hand into their deck, then draw cards equal to the number of remaining prizes. And 4 Sycamores, which allow you to discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Now, Sycamore is another way that we're going to be looking to get our darkness energies into our discard to take advantage of Oblivion Wing, but we're also running a straight 4 of Guzma. Now, this is particularly useful because we want to be able to Guzma up our opponent's inactive Pokemon, and this is good for Guzmaing up ones that either have a high retreat cost or no energy suited up for attacking, and lets us get some spread damage in with our Tapu Koko, for example, or in another example, our Latios. Because if we can get damage spread onto our opponent's Pokemon, the Baleful Knight from the Yveltal Break is going to be all the more useful. Following up and finishing off our trainers, we have our Pokemon tools. We're running a 3 of Choice Band to make our Yveltals hit just all the harder, and a 2 of Float Stone to give us the ability to free retreat any of our higher retreat cost Pokemon, though I do believe the highest that we have in our deck is 2, going across all of our Pokemon here, with free retreat on Koko and a single pip on Latios. Now we also have a single pip on the Tapu Lele for retreat there too. Now finishing up our deck, we are running 10 Darkness Energy and 4 Double Colorless. Now the reason that we have our Darkness Energy count so high is we want to be able to hit consistently with our max elixirs. We want to try and make sure that we can get energy onto our Yveltals as quickly as possible. Double Colorless also lets us use most of the attacks of almost all of our Pokemon with just a single energy attachment, and it's particularly useful with any of our spread Pokemon, our Tapu Koko or our Latios, for example. Now, overall, this looks like it's going to be a pretty strong deck. I'm kind of excited to play it. I'm glad that we actually had the votes end up in favor of playing Yveltal Break this week, so I really am interested in seeing how it pans out. Not sure if it's going to be an easy deck to use. It does look like it's going to be pretty complicated. Getting the numbers right with our spread damage and making sure that we're able to get everything suited up as quickly as possible looks like it might be a bit challenging, but I do relish the challenge and I look forward to seeing how well we can do. Now, with that said, that does actually clue up our deck tech there today. We do always greatly appreciate your viewership here at 8Badge Gaming, and we also look forward to any suggestions that you can give us on future decks to play. As always, we do hope you tune in for our gameplay videos this week, and this is Adam with 8Badge Gaming signing off.